So this week, which is in the Christian tradition, as many of us know, is Holy Week, leading all the way to the intense moments recorded in Jesus's life of Last Supper, betrayal, Garden of Gethsemane, crucifixion, death, and then resurrection on Easter, which sets in motion a long period of time of Easter unfolding and events. And as mentioned yesterday, this last 5 days, we're taking the 7 final phrases of Jesus and allowing each one of the phrases to correlate with one of the major chakras. So yesterday we had the root chakra, the belonging and element of being here on the earth and in form and part of a community. And we situated that beside the words, woman, behold your son, son, behold your mother, giving us the inspiration that as we ascend to ourselves on our journey, we discover over and over and over again that who our spiritual family may be changes. And if they do stay the same, it's because we're pacing each other on the spiritual path. So today we move up to the second and the third chakra. We'll be doing the second and the third chakra. So for the second chakra, I'm going to read the passage that all right. So this second phrase, and I'm taking this from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23. There was a written notice above Jesus, which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung beside Jesus hurled insults and said, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered, saying, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Here we find relationship happening in an unexpected place. And we find that the power that Jesus has and the power that that criminal who spoke in a way that was aligned with truth in his soul, that those two powers met. And in that meeting, Jesus was able to utter the words that what he was saying was so true, was so coming from a place of liberation that he could count on them seeing each other after what we call this moment of death. You know, in our second chakra, we are challenged with power in relationships, power with people, power with sexuality, power with money, all of our belief systems that have to do with the balance and chemistry and the working out of things in this world. And what we have here is an evidence to us that when we come into the simplicity of our own truth, the simplicity of our truth, we discover power in its rawest and purest form. Now, this is a twofold experience of power. Jesus gets to experience the power of seeing a fellow aligned soul, and he gets to exercise the power of uplifting affirmation. He is free in that moment. And the criminal gets to experience the power of his own being, where some of his last words on earth were aligned with truth. and wholeness. And he gets to experience the power of having a reflection from outside of him to that. That is, I believe, what we're called to as we live in this world, is to come to the place where our issues with power are dissolved, where we are not so much a for and against. We're against that, we're for that, we're setting protection up here, we're letting somebody in over here. But we have come to the place that we're simple and free and autonomous, and so living from our place of power that we not only reflect it back to ourselves, but we give it freely where it's warranted, and we are not depleted. There's nothing recorded of an exchange between the first criminal being hung and Jesus. Insults were hurled, but it seems that, at least in my interpretation, that there wasn't a match in the energy of the power. And in that moment, Jesus and the one man that were aligned could meet in similar power. It is an example that when we come into right standing with ourselves, when we come into right standing in all of our relationships, when we don't compromise, when we don't set up contracts, when we don't try to dysfunctionally work something out, when we are slowly healed of the codependency that is oftentimes masked with ideas of charity or self-service or taking the high road, when we are raw, we come into a place that accesses all power. And here we see it. Here we see it mirrored in this statement. Truly, I say to you, this day you will be with me in paradise. Exchange met exchange. We might liken ourselves to Jesus. We might liken ourselves to the criminal. We are both in life. We are the instrument of reflecting where truth and power can be found. And we are the ones who seek connection with an equal distribution of power in a way that it's win-win, in a way that all are uplifted. And what does it take? The healing of all our misconceptions around relationship in this world. The balls to the walls, that we will accept nothing less but simply speaking the truth and letting the chips fall. That is what we are coming into contact with. Speaking the truth with confidence. And even as the chips fall, if as we're aligned in truth, we are not met, then with ease, other constellations are formed that become our power grid as we live in this world. Yes, we are meant to be within a power grid, not within a grid that pulls our power or dissipates our power, but where we come to that potent place where we speak the truth for ourselves and we can clearly attest it in others. Powerful, right? Very powerful. So that is the second chakra and the second phrase. And now I'd like to bring in the third phrase. Obviously, it would be very nice if we had a full 7 days to take them all, but I wanted the 7 words to be in the last week. So this third phrase comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, 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 lema sabachthani. which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? Along our pathless path of self-realization, we find ourselves at different junctures, coming to a point when we know we gave our all, and yet we lost, or something is destroyed, or we are destroyed. And along this path, in those moments, we give our all for the sake of the highest good, of the highest good. Give our all for the sake of the highest good. And yet we can experience that it seems all for naught. We were promised protection, and yet we were oppressed. We stood for the truth in difficult circumstances, and we go unheard or forgotten or not valued. We step into our own full passion and desire for union, only to find ourselves seemingly abandoned in the face of that surrender. We have all been there, and undoubtedly it's probably happened more than once. I know that it has for me. And it can be, and most probably is, devastating. And here we have what I consider such an eloquent phrase of love. We could read those lines, my God, why have you forsaken me? And they're lines that have a tone of despair, a felt sense of abandonment. But I also see there a great tenderness, a trust so great, that the doubt or despair doesn't touch the intimacy between Jesus and his God, but rather the trust and the assent leads to the ability to say why. Jesus says it right within the embrace in addressing his God. He is attesting to a belief that there is this one that he has given his all for and in. Because he says, I am one with this God. And to be so intimate, to just within a week, to be giving testimony to how much he is one in this God, to have the turn of the coin to say, why have you forsaken me? Who is he speaking to, if not the source at his very center? And in that experience of utter honesty, he can then experience something that cannot be experienced any other way. And that is that he is always within the embrace. And it is from within the embrace that the utterance can come, shining a light that whether it's conscious or unconscious, because we don't know the state of, it was clearly if he was being crucified and he was hanging there, he was probably in a fair amount of pain. But even if on a soul level he was abiding in that painless state, he was experiencing pain and anguish of soul, a true dark moment. But he was already in such a place of union that it was within the embrace that the utterance happens, which allowed for something remarkable. And that is the direct experience that in the felt sense of abandonment, and everything around him was affirming that, right? Because he was being crucified for who he was, even more than what he did, who he was. And what about the moments when we are crucified for who we are? We are invited into an intimacy that in that moment does not look outward into the story of it, but looks inward and lets ourselves experience the real devastation that we gave our all, our spirit at our very center. And we find ourselves in the moment being crucified for this level of surrender and trust. And it is in that moment of the utterance that happens by being turned inward that we discover that it is within the hand, it is within the embrace, metaphorically the hands. So these second and third chakras are working with us in this world, because the third one, our solar plexus, is the I am in this world. It is the true stepping in to the fullness of ourselves as I am. I am the one who am. And as we step into that, how is the experience when for stepping into that, we are crucified? When as that, we are crucified. When we are the fullness of compassion, of kindness, of love, of understanding, of service, of gift of self, that in the fullness of those things, that being that is the very cause of the crucifixion itself. The only way is to turn inward, because our yes was to source and spirit. And if our yes is there, secondarily, it was outward to the world. So we have the second chakra with the power relationships in this world, this dimension. And we have the third, the embodiment of love in this world, the embodiment in this world. And the moments when we step into the fullness of that freedom and power, that we are crucified. There is no greater pain, and there is no greater point of intimacy and I shouldn't say that. That's perhaps not true. It doesn't take being crucified to come to that point of intimacy. But it is in those tremendous points of intimacy that we have the opportunity to have an experience of ourselves as source in the face of what does or doesn't accept it. And Jesus models the response that is most tender and vulnerable and honest. My God, why have you forsaken me? So it seems a good thing and appropriate that we would couple those chakras, because they have to do with being in this world, So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a meditation practice that is opening to a golden ball of light arising and amplifying in the second chakra and in the third. In the second chakra and in the third. Very simple. And what we're doing is we're opening to the discovery of what these phrases mean within us and how we can open up to them on our pathless path to be the place of great, great consolation. I invite you to close your eyes. And bring your focus to the second chakra, a few inches below the belly button. And let the breath be anchored here, expanding and contracting. And with each breath, sense or imagine there is a golden ball of light right in the center of your spine. And with every breath, this golden ball of light is growing larger and larger, spreading through the chakra, the front and the back, healing and transforming the pains and the hurts that you hold when it comes to all relationships, people, money, sex, all forms of power. And while that is continuing to take place, simultaneously draw the attention to the third chakra, the solar plexus. And let the breath encompass both the second and the third, so that entire region. It's about 8 inches of all the lower abdomen and all the way up to the rib cage. And let the breath be centered there, but be aware of both chakras. And let there be a secondary ball of light that on every breath is expanding, expanding. Keep the breath in this region and let yourself experience the healing of all the ways that the I am of who you are has been hurt by the trials in life, external and internal, the beliefs that hold you back, the ways your spirit has been squashed, the times that you showed up with brightness and you were put down, the times when you feared stepping into who you are. the ways that life's journey has planted seeds of self-doubt, uncertainty, jadedness, bitterness, resentment, rage. So many of these emotions are carried in the second and the third chakra. And we are here today to allow the light of our being to be a source of healing. There is nothing to work out. There is only the sweet allowing of the work of God to come to its fulfillment within you. Keep the breath expanding. Sense or imagine that light is truly moving through all parts of these chakras, opening them, healing, dissolving what is dark. Any ways you carry the collective consciousness within your being, past, present, and future. The ones that told you it was wrong to have self-worth or self-value, that it is holy to feel unworthy. We are breathing the breath of life that says no more to this limitation and says yes, yes, yes to the fullness of your being. And in the presence that you participate in, it is you stepping into the fullness of the Spirit that is always willing your good, always willing your happiness, always willing your freedom, always willing you to love and be loved. Your openness to be present here is a consecration, is an anointing of the sacredness of you. And we bring this practice to a close with the words of this poem. Moments of being pressed by life, the heat of spirit moving each divine finger upon every inch of being, into every crevice, nothing left untouched, here now. The hand of God is upon me, down, down, down. The compression surprises the awareness. The heated pressing is into something. It is the other hand of God, felt distinctly, unflinchingly holding. The more the pressure, the more the merge. These divine hands close in around me, their pearl, surrendering again. Never an end, only another gateway to paradise. And in that, I invite you to bring your palms together in front of your heart and to open your eyes with Namaste. Namaste. And I invite you to continue with this through the day. Blessings, my friends.